SERE Specialist Pipeline for the United States Air Force, Survival-Evasion-Resistance-Escape. In most branches, they do not have SERE as a dedicated career field.
Right.
So they're a special duty. So somebody will be a maintainer or some other job, some other MOS in another.
Aren't they usually like that type of position is usually contracted? Right?
They have a lot of contractors, and we do too, mainly because we can't fill the billets.
Okay.
But the spots that are necessary.
Oh, for the amount of SERE specialists you need.
Right.
Really.
So that's been a hard charge that the military's had lately.
Is that consistent across the military of just filling positions, or are there more positions that have that?
Well, so you have special warfare. A SERE specialist is an enabler of special warfare.
Okay.
So through our training, it enables their training.
Right.
Special warfare is definitely always having difficult time in without talking too far outside of my area of expertise. They have a hard time both getting the recruits. I mean, I think very well-known people have probably talked a lot about that. Hard time getting the recruits, and then they have to get through their pipeline, and their pipeline is demanding.
It is demanding, yeah. And most people are not physically up to the challenge.
They're not. I mean, there's definitely a difficulty. We see where I work is where a lot of those people train for the Air Force, and you definitely see the disparity. In the different career fields.
What's the difference between special warfare and special operations? Or is there a difference? Is it the same thing?
The Air Force calls it special warfare.
Okay.
I would say the biggest differences are that people call special forces.
Yeah.
All special forces, and really special forces is just the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the special operation community. And then you have those who support them, and that's really ultimately like a series. There's other support roles, but that's where we fall in. If anybody's read any of the books, that have been written, most people talk about SERE school. They talk about their experience in SERE, and it's a rewarding job specifically in the Air Force because it is your entire focus. Your entire focus is whatever deals with personal recovery. So their worst day is what we're trying to help prepare them for. Okay. And it's not just special warfare that goes to SERE in the Air Force. Pilots go, linguists can go. People who need that training, that run that at risk of isolation event, they will go to our training and receive what they need to at least have the confidence that they know how to handle themselves.
And so you guys go through all that type of training times 10, really.
That's the best part about the pipeline. I mean, it's a gem because you do get that opportunity to train in different biomes, all the biomes. You have the opportunity to learn what it's like to experience what that person that is at risk of isolation.
And what are the different biomes?
So you're going to have tropics. You're going to have
which would be
open ocean.
Like where? Where do they put that?
Well, just think of any tropical environment.
Environment.
I mean, Ecuador has a tropical environment. Sure. The rainforest is a tropical environment, right?
Okay.
You're going to have, where we do it, doesn't really matter, but any open ocean is going to be a biome.
Okay.
You're going to have your desert biome, right? Temperate environment, right? So you get to train in those different environments, and you have to learn how to procure water. You have to learn how to procure food. You have to learn how to cook that food and prepare that food, and you have to learn what's edible and what isn't edible, right? Because that's big time. Yeah. Then you have to learn how to initiate some sort of recovery because it's all about the military. So it's always about recovery. If they're having a bad day like
you're
that,
essentially a paid mountain man.
They want to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we get to do, and that's the best part about the training. I mean, you get to spend most of your, depending on where you are, where your job is, you get to spend a lot of your time being outside. Yeah. And that's a pretty cool gig. It's surprising. I mean, not a lot of people are aware of that option. I think my recruiter thought that you had to have had experience in the Air Force before you could go do it, instead of just be able to go right on in.
Your recruiter thought?
My recruiter didn't know, for sure.
But you can go directly in.
You go directly in,
and
to the pipeline.
Is that's how it is for almost all special operations now. You just have to qualify through the ASVAB, right? And then
you qualify through the ASVAB, and then you also have to take a fitness test.
Okay,
which
and if you pass
eliminates
that, then you can go into
You can get a
basic and then
contract.
selection, right?
Right.
Okay.
Of some kind,
And then you have to make it through that,
for sure.
which is where you would go to BUDS. It's probably going to be the one.
If you were in the Navy.
Right, that everybody
Everybody's going to be
knows,
comfortable with that.
Do they call your guys' school anything specific? Or
So I'm a cadre member at our, they don't call it, it's a SERE Specialist Training Orientation course, and I'm a cadre member there.
Yeah.
And then other,
That's why he has a mustache, guys.
it's obligatory. And it's there's a famous pilot photo, but we're not pilots, so it doesn't matter. We're like the opposite of the pilot in the Air Force. We're the less intelligent members of the Air Force. But
no, don't talk down about yourself.
It's comforting to know that there's people significantly more intelligent than myself out there doing really cool stuff.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. So there, but every pipeline will have its own name, its own thing, and it'll be run, by a very strict syllabus. I mean, nobody goes rogue. Like there's no like rogue aspects of it. You have a requirement, and you meet that requirement as cadre, and then the candidates have to meet that requirement also, and they're graded and pushed. And they don't really, you never feel like it's like that as a person going through, but that's the fact of it.
Yeah. What was the most challenging part of that for you getting through?
Well, navigation phase was where I was super unhappy. You carry 80 to 100 pound ruck for an extended period of time. Yeah. I think we covered 50 miles. And you are doing navigation during that time. So you're doing point to point navigation. You're doing terrain eval. You're using celestial age. You're doing night navigation. You're living out of your pack. And you're covering, I mean, we're in a mountainous region. So you're covering not only a lot of distance, but you're also covering a lot of elevation gain. And that's not, some people are great with that. They're like built to have a pack on their back. And I love those people and I hate them at the same time because I'm not one of them.
You don't think you're like that?
I'm not like that compared to some of the humans. There's just a monster difference between like the people that are very comfortable with their pack on.
There's oxes and then there's gazelles.
Right? That's right. And it's an impressive feat when you see, you see a dude get after it with that pack on, and you're like, that's a big human. And that was probably the toughest phase. But I mean, because of the technical aspect of it, we'll do we do a search and rescue, or we call it rocks phase. And I mean, you're learning, a variation of rock climbing mixed with locating an isolated person and then recovering them with some sort of angles. Yeah. And you have certain knots that you have to tie so that the person's strapped in and safe. And I mean, there's a high technical aspect to that. Yeah. Which is not just, hey, climb up that rock and go find somebody and carry them down. I mean, there's a lot. What if they're injured? There's a lot that goes into it. What if they're going to be, how are they going to be evacuated? You have to take a lot of that into account. And that's very technical for someone who's going through training. So you can't sleep on the mental aspect. It's not like that. And that's something that a lot of candidates will say they were surprised by the mental aspect that was required.
Force here.
To get through. Not that you have to be a genius, of course, but that you just have to be dialed in. There's not a lot of times
fortitude.
Right. Fortitude. You have to be dialed in to, you can't just shut up and color sometimes, or you can't just eat crayons. I mean, you have to be focused, because the cadre are going to teach you something that you've never seen before. And then they're going to have you do that. And then that's a graded item. It's going to be really quick. Yeah. And you need to know how to pick it up. And that takes focus. That isn't just being able to run really fast or being able to ruck up that mountain or be able to lift a lot of weight.
Yeah. You got to learn, implement.
You have to, and it's all super practical. You're going to use the vast majority of it, depending on at some time in your career potentially. Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And so you're training people. Well, you were training people doing that in the mountains. Yep. Now you're cadre, so that's the selection school.
It's part of the orientation course, just to use the proper terminology. And that's where the candidates will come in from basic training, or they'll cross train, and they will have that opportunity to see if SERE's for them. It's it's like a job interview. They get to see if they're a good fit for us, and if we're a good fit for them, and go through. I can't really get into the details of what the course looks like, but they'll have that opportunity over 15 days to be evaluated, work hard. They'll get to work harder than they've ever worked in their life.
Yeah.
Which oftentimes I will say to them, no matter what happens, nobody can take that from you. You know that you
still put the work in.
You put the work in. You learn skills that you probably have never learned, and they will stay with you. And
what's the attrition rate?
So it varies anywhere between 50 to, I mean, my class, we started with 33 candidates in my class. They graduated 4 in the course. And then that
But you started with 50 and graduated 4.
We started with 33.
33, okay.
I was an iteration, a final iteration in the course before it started. It had a downtime, and then they started a new one.
And how much older were you
I
than the other?
I think I was about 10 years probably their senior.
Really?
Yep.
The next.
I think the next person down was maybe 23.
Okay.
And I mean, joke's on me. I was the team lead. We were all low ranking. There were no cross trains, so nobody came over from another job that wanted to be
It's funny how you never want to be in leadership yet. Just kind of seemingly happens.
That was horrible. No, they picked me because of team, and there's an individual that's out there.
They think as their elder, he will make wise choices.
Right,
which,
and they said
they made the wrong choice.
They pulled me aside, and it was a beautiful learning experience for me. It was humbling. They said, "You are Airman Pimental. You're the worst leader that we have ever had." And I was like, "Okay, that hurts. That stings." But I didn't know. I mean, this, you go from like leadership in a private sector to leadership in the military, and it's a completely different ask. It's a different expectation.
How would you just explain that?
There is zero rationalizing. There is no
in the
excuse.
military.
Right. Yep. Certainly at that time in training, nobody cares about why it didn't work out.
They just care that it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. You were not where you were supposed to be in time. You were not. You were late, and late is a fixed. That is a fixed time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're told to be somewhere at 06:30, then you're there, and not only there, you're not finishing at 06:30. You're standing in formation, ready to rock.
Right.
And I knowingly. I mean, first of all, I was in charge of like these young bucks that were like. They weren't getting out of bed on time, and I was responsible for just trying to get people out of bed, which that wasn't my strength for sure. I didn't understand why I even had to wait for them. But then
there's a reason
team.
You didn't fit in very well in the general public.
So I ended up trying to figure it out there, and they were like, "Are you having a hard time leading some of these young?" And I did. That mixed with it was like an odd way to say a dream come true. I got to go do something I had always wanted to do, but at the same time, I didn't know at all what I was doing.
Yeah,
I really didn't. I mean, military has customs and courtesies. There's a level of professionalism that you don't that you have to
maintain.
As an older person, you have some habits. You have some ways about you, especially if you had come I had come from some level of a moderate level of success.
Yeah.
So going to parade rest when you're talking to somebody in leadership, like that,
they don't care about what you did in your
right. They do not
life,
care.
Yeah.
They're not asking. They're not impressed. That person is of a higher rank, and I need to be standing at parade rest, and I'm like standing there with my hands at my sides, not even realizing how disrespectful I was.
How old was your cadre when you?
They're some of them were definitely younger than me.
Was that hard to chew on? Or
no, it wasn't, because I was happy to be there. Yeah. I mean, I truly was happy to be there, hearing that I didn't at any time think about their age.
You just thought about their rank.
I looked at their age like military age.
Okay.
They had done things that I hadn't done.
Right.
They had experiences I had not experienced. And I was kind of, frankly, I was like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to have that opportunity to learn from them.
Do you think you would have had the same experience if you had joined, let's say, at 19 years old?
I don't know if I would have made it at 19. I'm just not sure if I had the discipline. I would have been more thrust and no vector. I mean, it was tough to. It would have taken some chilling out.
Well, I feel like it's an appreciation for the sacrifice.